Avery, whose show is this?
Saga.
And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, senior Lakers insider for Clutch Points, joined on this fine Wednesday afternoon by truly one of my absolute favorite people in this industry. One of my closest friends. We came up together, used to host a show together. And actually, I forgot to update the thing on the right there because we were going to add to it. So I guess I'll do that while I talk. But Adam Mattis of DNVR, All NBA, doing great work basically no matter what he's doing. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. Is this where I have to now talk just off the cuff for a minute while you do other things? Was that what that prompt was? Like just you go while I work behind the scenes?
Well, I mean, like if you're like 30 seconds there, like you just have more, like if you have another 30 seconds and there it is. Hey, we uploaded it.
Oh, are we doing whoa or whoa?
We're doing whoa or whoa.
Let's do it. I love it. America's favorite game.
That's been gone for like 8 years. Yeah, no, we are going to be playing whoa or whoa at the end of the show. I have a few teams that I want to talk about as we kind of broaden our focus. I want to talk to Adam today about the new Luka Lakers. I was on accident. But the new look Lakers as they beat the Denver Nuggets Saturday in very different ways and approach that game obviously in very different ways than the last few years. So I want to talk to him about that game, whether he thinks that was a one-off kind of a thing or if there's something that he's a little more nervous about moving forward. Want to get your views also, Adam, about the whole Luka trade and its ramifications both to the Lakers and across the league, and anything else that kind of comes up. So let's go ahead and get to all of that. Quick reminder, please hit that subscribe button if you guys are listening live right now. If you guys are tuned in from Twitter, please head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge to find the show there. And then if you guys are listening to this in the morning via podcast, hit subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcasts, preferably on Odyssey because I am a company man. All right, let's go ahead and talk about all of this good stuff. Let's start with that game though on Saturday. And the Lakers, I couldn't quite decide what was more impressive, what they did to Denver defensively or how they made or what they did offensively and what they forced Denver to do on that side of the ball. What were you kind of more blown away by?
Well, I wasn't blown away, honestly, with their offense at all. I think their offense is what it was, and they played in transition a lot because they got a lot of stops. So for me, it was easily their defense, which was, I'll go ahead and give the Lakers this. I think it is as well an executed, thought out game plan that I've seen in the regular season from any team, because that was February, 22nd, I think the game took place on. Not exactly a moment in time where teams are like locked in on defensive. It's usually like, hey, we're going to play up in pick and roll. Sorry. Okay. That was a full scheme adjustment that the team put in place. And usually when you do that, there's just holes in it and there's mistakes. And okay, somebody got a wide open. They were locked in, man. That was a playoff caliber performance from a team, from an execution standpoint and an intensity standpoint. And it was multifold. Number one, Denver, unfortunately, got word out about them last year in the Minnesota series that physicality really bothers Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he can't handle it. And Jamal Murray can't handle it. Jokic, Aaron Gordon, like these guys like physicality. But the first step of this, before we get into the schematic difference, it was a strategic decision to get physical and into Denver and to push the limits of what was going to be allowed. And it allowed for a physical game that just, I thought, zapped Michael Porter for sure. And even Jamal Murray just took him out of the rhythm. So that was step one, and they executed that step perfectly. And then there was more impressive things down the line from that.
Yeah, the physicality aspect of it, the Lakers basically dating back to the D'Angelo Russell trade, they became a very soft team by way of that trade, right? And so much so that like Bruce Brown and Mike Malone basically said going into that series, that dude is not a playoff performer. We are going to take that guy out of the series, and they don't have the resources to make up for $16 million sitting there on the sideline watching for the rest of those series. And it was just, that was the starting point and frankly the end point to any chances that the Lakers had in those games.
By the way, real quick, can we just talk about how the storyline out of that series in you're talking about 2023, not 2024, but 2023, the storyline was about Michael Malone trash talking LeBron. He didn't really. I mean, a little bit. He really trash talked D'Angelo Russell. Nobody came to D'Angelo Russell's defense after game 1. He was like, it's going to be interesting to see if they even play him again. Like, the coach said that at the podium. Nobody, not a word. And then like a mild criticism of LeBron, and they're like, "You watch your mouth."
No, I thought the D'Angelo Russell stuff was legitimately hilarious. Like some of the funniest stuff I have ever seen or heard in my time, not just like covering the league, but like watching the league. It honestly reminded me of the kind of stuff that like Phil Jackson used to say when he was clearly trying to rankle, like the Spurs back in the day.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really funny. And then and he was absolutely right, by the way. In both the next times that they played them, D'Lo wound up fading, and there was just no way for the Lakers to make up for somebody who was such a big part of their identity to get to those matchups, now no longer being able to play a part in any of those matchups. And so like you swap out him for Dorian Finney-Smith, and Vando was actually able to play in that game. Now he played he only played like 15 minutes or so.
15 minutes.
I thought it swung the game. I thought he really annoyed I thought it really annoyed Jokic that like he wasn't able to like walk anywhere. And I thought that really kind of set a tone then from that point on. And then the fact that you'd have like Rui is playing a lot better recently now too. So you had like these 3 big wings that were at all times triangulated around what Luka or what Jokic was trying to do. And they just completely swallowed up the paint. And I think like the biggest factor here from the Nuggets standpoint is the Lakers were basically like, all right, Aaron Gordon, you made a couple threes. Cool.
Didn't care.
He didn't care about when he was open on the, like even Jamal Murray he made 6 or 7 threes in that game.
Yeah.
And it's like, if Jamal Murray is hitting step back, off the dribble 3-pointers, that's not involving anybody else. Like we saw that with the Mavericks last night with Kyrie. It was like, yeah, Kyrie had 35 last night and he did so on 27 shots. And so like the Lakers have basically said, like, if you're going to beat us, it's going to be via tough shots on the perimeter, and your role players are going to have to be the ones that beat us. How does Denver adjust to that? Like, is it just make shots? Like, does Aaron Gordon have to shoot like 8 threes a game now?
No, I mean, I think Denver was just unprepared for that game, right? That was a game plan that was not. I had some Lakers fans say they've been playing great defense all year. Yes, but they weren't playing that defense. That was a new rollout, and I think Denver was just unprepared for it and couldn't adjust. So I do think Denver is going to have to build counters. But what was interesting about the game from a Denver perspective, just to put into perspective what I believe the adjustment was, because there was a lot of little mini adjustments, but we step back. What's the 10,000-foot view? You double Jokic in the post, he picks you apart. What they did was pre-double him. They took away the entry pass. They said, we're not going to allow him to catch it, and then we rotate. We're going to front him, and Jared Vanderbilt did a very good job of this. By the way, you were talking about not letting him move. Only twice ever have I seen Jokic get a foul when a player will put their arm like across Jokic, like this, and Jokic will do a thing where he'll lift it up over his head. I've only seen it called twice ever because I don't think it's a foul. I think it's a foul on the person putting their arm in front of him, like as he's trying to cut.
It was funny. They like reversed the 2 calls. I thought they called that one on Jokic, and then there was one where he went right through Vanderbilt, who I thought
called they called it on Vando. I'm telling you, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense
backwards.
I've only seen it called because like you're trying to chest a guy, and what Jokic will do is he'll like swing move around it. So now the only part that's in front is the arm. And of course, if you have an arm around a guy, in my opinion, you're impeding his ability to move, and it's a foul. Well, twice I've seen it. Once was in the bubble. Dwight Howard got that call somehow when Jokic, literally you watch him, grabs the arm and tries to go under his arm, not push him out the way, just goes under it, and they called a foul on him. And then, of course, against Jared Vanderbilt. But neither here nor there. What they did was they would put...
Same level of defender, in fairness.
Whether it was Rui or whether it was Jared Vanderbilt, they just would have him front, And then rather than have your help side ready to rotate over if the pass came, they just pre-rotated him. So they made a sandwich, a little Jokic sandwich, and said, we'll play 4-on-3 against everyone else because you don't have a fulcrum outside of Jokic. Jokic is your fulcrum. And Denver didn't know what to do because Denver literally doesn't have an action that doesn't involve Jokic. They don't have a play in the playbook or someone that can go. So I think what this reveals to Denver is, one, that they are capable of being taken out because they don't have the shooting. Because usually it's like 4-on-3, we can just swing the ball to the corner and somebody gets a shot up. Denver doesn't have the shooting to do that. So they need to build in other entries that don't involve Jokic. And I think that was probably the big revelation. A lot of this has to do with Jamal Murray, who every year comes into the league out of shape. And then by January, he's in shape. So it's like, you don't have a whole year to work on that. You only have half a year. Yeah. Denver, I think it's like, hey, these next 2 months, we need to figure out some entries that use Jokic on the opposite side of the floor, not as the fulcrum.
I kind of feel like anything with Murray and Gordon as kind of like a pick and roll on the strong side with Jokic on the weak side should be able to get the offense going, especially like Gordon in the short roll. I really love that dude's game. Like, I was so pissed when you guys got him. I was so angry. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch. And I tweeted it out and I couldn't believe the amount of confidence I tweeted with it, but it was like, I want 7 of these games in a few months. And it's purely like, I'm not altogether all that confident that the Lakers would beat Denver in a series. It's more that I want to see that chess match. I want to see Jokic figure this out and then Denver throw something at LeBron or throw something at Luka and have those guys figure it out and have that go back and forth over the course of a 7-game series. And actually, it's kind of funny the way that the schedule breaks out, that we get all of these matchups now later into the year. So we'll see kind of versions. It won't be the same kind of extent, because I don't think Denver's. I
don't think we'll see it again.
What?
I don't think we'll see it again.
Like, you think the Lakers had their success and then they'll just kind of back off?
I don't think we'll see it again. The next time they play, the Lakers are on the second night of a back-to-back off of a 4-game road trip. I just think that's not a game that you say, do we want to go in there? Are we even going to have time to put in an adjustment? There's probably no shoot around, no walkthrough. Yeah. So to me, that's a game they either fully punt or just play straight up, just kind of like, all right, we're just going to go out there and run our base defense. So we won't get a read. No matter what, I don't think we'll get a read. Is there another game that they play each other later in the year? Do they have one more? That might be the only one.
Did they only play 3 times this year?
Nope. They play right after that, actually, on March 19th in LA. So they do have that one. We might see it. That one, I would not be surprised. Like, here's the thing. If I'm JJ, I look at that and I say, a lot of good intel. You don't want to give them an opportunity. So if I'm JJ Redick in that game, I say fourth quarter, we go to it. Fourth quarter. But we're not going to play this. We're not going to give them 50 reps of this. True. We're just going to go in try to win the game by going to that late. But here's the thing about this. Can Denver break it? To break it, you either need great shot makers, and Denver has Michael Porter. He missed some open ones, but I don't know if they have enough for them to blink about that. You're taking off the paint. Aaron Gordon's your other initiator, but he's a paint presence as well. It's kind of slow. You post him up. Is that going to work? I don't think that's the option. Jamal Murray is a crafty player. He's not quick, because when you're overloading 2 guys on 1 guy, if you can break the first line of defense without complicated actions, like if you can just, I beat my guy off the dribble and got into the paint, that defense is now in a scramble and things can come off of it. Jamal Murray's not that type of player. Russ is, but he can't finish. So Denver doesn't have a quick off the dribble player that I think would lend itself to breaking that defense well. So it's going to be an interesting question, in my opinion, about, is that defense as effective as it was against Jokic, just keeping the ball out of his hands? And if so, does Denver have something in their arsenal that they can even go to? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
I wonder if they just give Jokic the ball earlier in the offense and have him bring it up a little bit more. We didn't really see that game.
One interesting thing that happened in that game is the game before, Jokic took a career-high 14 3-point attempts, and it was against Charlotte. Against Charlotte, and it was one of those games where it's like, Jokic will take threes when he goes against Rudy Gobert. Okay, I got to draw him out of the paint, so I'm going to start making threes. You don't do that against the Charlotte Hornets. It was almost like he's working on his three. He's been shooting his 3 a lot this year. He's been really good with it, shooting 45%, I think, on the season, and it is a weapon. He didn't shoot any. They're doubling you in the post or anywhere around the paint, but you never stepped out to the 3-point line to try a 3-pointer. Like, again, this is why that game to me, as good as Lakers fans should feel about that one, and they should. It was a dominant performance. I do look at that and go, Denver didn't pull any levers. They didn't really do anything. Yoke didn't even step outside to try to take a three. He took 7 total shots.
Yeah, I thought his whole approach there, like that was the most hapless. I think hapless is the word that I've seen Jokic ever look like, frankly, and I like there was part of the conversation that I kind of saw was how, oh, well, the Lakers played a lot harder in that one than the Nuggets did. I honestly think like the Nuggets looked at Jokic and was like, we have never seen this from him. Like the lack of levers, the just kind of acceptance of like, well, I didn't get the ball here. You guys got to figure it out. Like, I kind of think like that kind of sets a tone with the rest of the team. And I don't know, like Denver doesn't have the guys to make up for that. I want to go back to what you said about the offense, because I was actually more, I walked away from that game. The defense was incredible, but what the Lakers were able, I thought the Lakers could have won that game by like 30 or 40 if they just shoot like a slightly better percentage on their open 3-pointers. And I didn't think that there was much that Denver could do defensively against them. When you say that felt a lot like the other Lakers games, what do you mean by that?
I just mean I wasn't that impressed with the offense. I mean, Luka was, having his way. I think Luka would have his way against Denver, when he was on Dallas. Like, that's not a matchup Denver is equipped for. Certainly not LeBron and Luka. But to me, they just got a lot off of stops, and like that is tiring. And then you mentioned they didn't shoot the ball well. Physical defense, there's a correlation between physical defense and bad shooting. If you're going to play physical defense, you're probably just going to shoot a little bit worse. And so to me, I don't know that this is a, they won by 25, but they could have won by 60. Like, it's like, all right, like there's a little give and take.
Easy.
To all this.
Like 45.
45. Yeah. I think there's a little give and take to this. And like I said, Denver, to me, their offense looked as hapless as they had all year. And so I think that was more of it. And you're just constantly playing in transition, and eventually it broke open in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, their offense, I don't really have that much of a read on it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going to be dynamic because you have two extremely smart players. I think that's the underrated part of the Luka LeBron pairing. We really saw it last night for the first time, in my opinion, more than any of the other games. And I think I've watched all of them. Last night was the first time I felt like two smart players making things easy for you 7 times a game. And then they're also just good throughout the rest of the game. But 7 times they get you a dunk because they both read this quicker than everyone else. That's the real difficulty of that they'll present other teams is. And by the way, ironically, we see this with Russell Westbrook and Yoke, where Russ and Yoke give each other 6, 7, 8 points a game that are real easy, but it's because they're both passers. So they both see the angles before everyone else, and they just happen to get into spots where you're like, how's Russ wide open under the basket? Oh, they set it up together and did a thing.
Yeah, I said after the game last night that I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this, with two great scorers who are also great passers playing on the same team together. And I'm really kind of curious what the offense eventually looks like there. Like, they basically spread Dallas out last night, and they also came to the realization they were like literally walking Rui into spots. Like, no, you stand here. You're being guarded by Max Christie, and he's giving up like 50 pounds to you. Just stand here. I promise you're going to be open. And they spread him out. And, you had one wing on Luka. You had another wing. You had PJ Washington on LeBron. You had Najee Marshall on Luka. And that left Christie on Rui. And Rui just like walked into dunks. And I think LeBron also got like an offensive rebound that was born of the attention that they have to pay to Luka as well. I don't know. Like I do think eventually the defense is going to scale back. I think right now they're playing the best defense in the league over the last like 15 games or whatever it is.
Who's eventually the most impressive one, though, in my opinion, of all of the players?
What's that?
Do you know who I think is the most impressive player defensively, though, on the Lakers that makes the engine or makes the whole thing work?
Oh, it has to be Dorian.
I was going to say LeBron James. I think it's LeBron. I think it's LeBron. Like, because when we talk about intelligence, we're thinking about all the passes and they set this up and they did this, that. But LeBron's ability to understand what's trying to be accomplished. I mean, obviously he's in the league. He's already a smart player and he's been in the league so long. To me, that's the thing.
Too.
What's that?
Jokic is like this too. When he's defending
course.
really well, he knows where to like which specific spot it's going to jam up an offense.
So I see GOI Huang says in here that there was that screen-to-screener action they ran that got Jokic a shot at the foul line. They're right. But the truth is they ran it twice. And on the second one, LeBron was able to kind of blow it up. Again, Denver not prepared for this game in any meaningful way. So he put in a play, works. What do we do next? They got to run the play again. No, it's not working now. Like, yeah. but this is why I think that the game is so like, I don't want to say a one-off. Like the Lakers might also, like I could say, oh, Denver has a counter. Well, the Lakers didn't show everything. They have counters too. So, but what's one of the reasons I kind of throw this game out of, okay, Lakers caught him by surprise. It's like it was a street fight. They caught him with a quick left hook and then knockout punch. Like, all right, we'll see what happens in fight two.
I can't wait for the other matchups. It is a bummer that the second one is coming off the second night of a back-to-back, and I don't know how much of that is because of the fires and rescheduling and stuff like that, but that's something that the league is going to have to figure out at some point. Is like going into any season, which ones are your marquee matchups. That should not be anywhere near the second night or a back-to-back. It shouldn't be on either end of a back-to-back, and the sooner that they kind of figure that out, the better. Yeah, I last kind of thing here before we move on, kind of talk more about like the league in general, but I also kind of want to go back to like your reaction to the trade itself. Like, I think you texted me and you were like,
I tell you, I break the news.
No, you were just like, what the fuck? like you were like, actually, you seemed a little.
I was the only person on earth that believed it when it happened. Like, if it's nobody that we'll never be able to explain this moment in time to our kids, I'm like, no, there was a trade and it was announced, but nobody believed it. Everyone just assumed they were hacked. They're like, well, why did they think that? Because it was so crazy that it made more sense that a person was hacked than that this trade happened.
Shams also, like, his follow-up where he was like, I swear I'm not hacked, was like, you're totally hacked.
You're totally hacked. That's what a hacked person would say. Yeah, totally. I'm telling you, the entire stages of like, it's just, there'll never be another moment like that. There's these little moments that the internet and social media allow for now. And that to me is up there with the best of them in terms of like collective, what? No way.
Yeah.
The reason I believed it as the only human being on the entire planet that believed it is because my theory. I still don't buy that this just happened as advertised, that Nico Harrison just didn't like fat people. I don't buy this story. Yeah. I honestly think this is a conspiracy of the highest order to get Luka. The Lakers had nothing. And I have to give a shout out to my guy D-Line because he has a hilarious theory that Jeannie Buss being in Hollywood, it's LA. She's grown up a billionaire heiress and everything else. She only likes beautiful people. She's only ever been surrounded. So JJ Redick, handsome looking guy, Rob Pelinka. It's just like, oh, that's a competent person. He's attractive. Like they're never gonna hire Budenholzer.
So good. I mean, she married Jay Moore, who isn't a very good looking guy, but still, like, it's fair.
And I just look at all this and go, none of this makes sense from Dallas's standpoint. There's no way this happened in the way it's been presented. I'll never believe it. The Lakers were dead in the water. They had not done enough right to build a true contending team, and were in a position that gave them very few outs, especially the way they like to build quickly. I mean, the only out for them was a very slow, methodical rebuild. And all of a sudden, here drops Luka freaking Doncic in their lap in a way that literally nobody on earth even believed was real. I'm like, yeah, man, of course I'm pissed. I looked at this and go, a dead team just got back to life. And oh, by the way, it's the same team that has always had everything handed to them. So yeah, I think it's crazy. It doesn't make sense.
That's exactly what I was hoping for.
Sense. Jokic has played 10 years in Denver. He has never played with another all-star or all-defensive team player. Think about how crazy. More so, he's played more minutes than any player in NBA history without his teammate that was an all-star in that same season.
No, I think one of the takes
that Luka Doncic given to him on a platter for nothing. And then made an immediate mistake trying to go get Mark Williams, who's not even good. I couldn't believe how many. I couldn't even.
It's so great if the conspiracy continues to the league be like, no.
The league's like, hey, that's going to ruin this. Like, are you guys idiots? They're like, yes, we are. You gave us Luka. We don't. What are you supposed to? Just don't make any moves with that. Adam Silver's like, no more moves until I call you. All right, just. And then they're like, oh, Mark Williams is real messed up. He's real hurt. So
yeah. Yeah, that
They
was
got
the funniest part of
two first and
it. Was
Dalton
a pick and a
Knecht,
swap. It was a pick and a swap in Dalton, but yeah.
for Mark Williams. And then the worst part was the entire Lakers machine just comes out and is like, is he a Jokic stopper? I'm like, what? Guys, what? What are we doing?
It was funny because like the Williams thing was funny because the first report that we got was, I believe, from Dan Wojcicki, who was like, yeah, according to people I'm talking to, the Lakers are really confident about the state of Mark Williams medically, like super duper confident about him. And I was like, that feels like a bit of a red flag. And then I think I saw that Jared Greenberg reported during a broadcast that Mark Williams hasn't been able to lift in the NBA the way that he would like to because of the maladies to his back. And then I think like the next day,
these things were known, by the way. This is not like the Lakers like, what? I thought he was jumping out the gym.
I'm not positive Pelinka knew who Mark Williams was, but like,
I'm going to tell you this right now, Anthony, and you can run with it. They knew, and they had buyer's remorse, and they got out of it in a way that, like a person getting out of a house, like I bought a house and now I don't like the house anymore. Like, the inspection showed that there was a light switch that didn't work.
No, I mean, like, I think the overwhelming majority of people I've spoken to around the league think that that's the case, that it was just, it feels fishy. And that's why the Hornets reacted the way that they did, was like, wait, that's a thing you can do? Like, we could just say, but anyway, so the funny thing about that was like Jared Greenberg tweets out the next day, hey, I have to recount my report. I have to bring that back and say that Mark Williams is actually fully healthy. And that was like, okay, something is definitely going on here. And then like 24 hours later, the trade gets rescinded and the Lakers point to now this is where it's funny, because the Lakers say that like they're okay with the back stuff and they're okay with the foot stuff. And then but there's like something else that is wrong with Mark Williams that they like couldn't look past, and that they were nervous about moving forward.
His skill set.
And it hasn't leaked out what that is. Nobody has said anything about it. The agent says that he spoke to all of these doctors and stuff who said that like Mark Williams, there's that trade shouldn't have been rescinded. Everything that was on that in the physical, they would have known beforehand by way of the Hornets doctors, all that stuff. The only people here who are like holding on tight to the fact that they know something that everybody else doesn't is the Lakers, and they still get the final say on it. So
yeah,
the
good news is Adam Silver is really tough on teams for this type of stuff. So I'm sure he'll come with an iron fist.
It was I like the whole time when it was like, well, the Hornets are going to Adam Silver about, forcing this trade through. And it's like, maybe David Stern does. Maybe. Adam Silver? Absolutely.
Yeah, no way. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely not. All right. So I want to zoom out really quickly before we get out of here and play an old game of ours that we used to play back when we used to host Locked On. Actually, neither of us are there anymore, right?
Correct.
Back when we both used to host Locked On NBA together on what was it, Thursday nights for Fridays. A game that I introduced was Whoa or Whoa, and it's all about intonation. Either you feel like I'm going to say a name, I'm going to say a team, and based on a very precise and scientific grading scale, Adam is supposed to respond, "Whoa!" or "Whoa."
Okay.
Whoa. So I want to start this with the team that the Lakers played last night, the Dallas Mavericks. How do you feel about them here moving forward? Whoa or whoa?
I'm going to go more whoa. Okay. But here's what I will say, man. I actually think Anthony Davis with that front line makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that team could be good. And we saw the first half that they got before Anthony Davis did what he does. But we saw it and it was like, hey, I see this, man. That's a hard team to score on. They're versatile. Can you build even down the line from that? Like, I really bought it. But the trade itself was insane. And the person who made that trade is still at the helm. Anthony Davis is already hurt. Like, all this stuff is already adding up to me. I look at that and I go, I can buy it. There's a world where he comes out the team is better than the Lakers are this year, and he gets the short period where everyone says, well, hold on, I don't know. But the truth is the decision making that went into the ownership group saying we had no idea the fan base would respond this way. Like, what are we talking about? What?
Yeah.
Do you have your eye on the ball at all here? The answer is no. So I have to give him a whoa.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that stuff. Basketball wise, like if it was just 2K and I could fire Nico like tomorrow, I would say, yeah, there's a lot to like there. But the fact that that guy outlasts or outlives this decision is kind of wild. I wanna run a theory that I have by you about the whole like fat shaming thing with Luka and
Fat
like
shaming. We can't say fat shaming when it comes to athletes, but
well,
I get what
like,
you mean.
It's not. Well, here's my thing. I think American sports thinkers are very narrow in their definition of athleticism, and it's all measurables, it's all tangibles, it's all explosiveness, it's sprint speeds, and all those things. And Nico is historically a Nike guy. And Jason Kidd also very, very American basketball thinker. I know that we just joked about the whole conspiracy aspect of all of this, but I truly believe that people with that background would kind of look at Luka and overestimate like the importance of traditional athleticism. And I think that's what goes in. Like we saw it for how long with Jokic too. How long it took for people to come to grips with the fact that this guy could actually be first an average defender and then eventually a good defender. Yeah. And it's because we look at that guy and we're like, look at the way that guy looks like he's playing with a head cold. There's no way that guy can be a good defensive player. And I truly believe that like what it really comes down to is this like very American idealistic approach to athleticism.
I think it's just the simple. I'm not even going to say American or any of this stuff. I just think it's the simplistic thing. It's easy to see a guy jumps high. It's easy to see he runs fast. It's not so easy to see that he gets off of his toes quickly, like for a second jump on a tip back, which is really important. It's harder to notice just how valuable of a skill Luka Doncic's deceleration is and the power and strengths it takes to be able to go from full speed to stop and balance that way. So I agree with you that basketball, it's kind of funny. Jokic, when he was coming into the league 10 years ago, he went to P3, right? Out is in Santa Barbara or somewhere out there in California. Mm-hmm. P3, where they do all this like conditioning test. To this day, he has the quickest jump of anybody they've ever measured. Meaning like he not highest, because that's not very high, but just from standstill to up off the ground, he's super, super quick. And we see this in his rebounding. We see this in his putbacks, his jump hooks. Like he gets people off guard a lot because he's just quicker from zero to up, and like your shot blockers are always a step behind. That's athleticism. It's a weird athleticism. You can't notice it just from watching a guy one time. So I agree with you that athleticism is all these skills. And then, oh, by the way, in today's league, girth matters if you're mobile. Luka's really mobile, and he's way too big for most of your defenders that you would throw at him because he's just too strong, too wide. His spin. I guarded a guy in college one time, and he was like an all-conference player, right? So this guy was a pretty good guy. He was probably 300 pounds. But what made him so good was his spin move because he was this wide. And his spin, the circumference of it was incredible that you had to like shift 3 steps that way, 3 steps this way to catch the spin. Yeah. Luka has a little bit of that in him too, and that he's just so big and wide that his left to right spins and stuff like that are longer than, say, Bobo's.
Well, I also like Luka grew up playing against grown-ass men really early on in his life, and he learned how to move people and how to not be moved by people. And like I watched it against you guys where Aaron Gordon is guarding him. LeBron had trouble moving Aaron Gordon last year. Like it just happened last year. He's one of the strongest people in the league, and Luka was moving him, and I'm watching Aaron Gordon go like, wait, what? People don't do this to me. And there is such value in that. And I really think that they completely overlooked all of those aspects of athleticism that is not traditional, 46-inch vertical, 3.9, 40-yard dash stuff. Like Luka is a great athlete. We just have to rethink some of what we think about athleticism.
And another guy that I think is a great example of this is Shea. One of the things
Yeah.
that makes Chase, because is he athletic? He's not like Amen Thompson, right? Like, but he has an athleticism that's so valuable, which is balance. He somehow is never off balance, and all of his moves are off balance. So he can step to his right off one leg, and somehow he's just perfectly square, and it looks like he's jumping off of two. His feet can be right together as he's moving sideways, but he's not falling because he just has this like cat-like balance. So those types of things, balance and the little precision things, are athleticism, but they're just hard to measure.
Yeah. All right, another team here. Whoa or whoa, going back to the game. The Golden State Warriors.
Whoa. I'm
Good whoa.
into him. I'm into him, man. I'm a big believer that a couple boxes have to be checked for you to win a title. Talent, of course, all these different things, your ability to problem solve. But one of the boxes that gets most overlooked is just your toughness.
Yeah.
How many MFers do you have on your team? They have the two biggest ones in the entire league, and Draymond and Jimmy Butler. Like, I don't think there will be a team that out-toughs them in the playoffs. So they're going to check one box in the like, all right, let's the tail of the tape. They're going to win one box every single time. He's also Jimmy Butler. Look, man, he's not my favorite player for all of the other stuff, but as a basketball player, he's incredibly smart. He's not appreciated enough for how smart of a player he is, especially defensively, but even as a table setter. And now you have two of the smartest and toughest defensive players in the entire league on the same thing. Luka and LeBron, smartest, most versatile offensive players together. That gives you something. Jimmy and Draymond Green, yeah, good luck, man. You're gonna have to go through them because you're not gonna trick them.
Yeah, and then on top of that, Steph, like like
And
the
then Steph,
boogeyman that is
course.
Steph, you know, like the way that he just changes math. Like the way that I've looked at it, the defense is a really cool way of looking at it too. But like offensively, the way that Steph can stretch you out, and Jimmy Butler, who was already good at getting through cracks in the defense and getting to the free throw line, now those cracks are even bigger.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, and now he gets to operate off ball and be a cutter while Steph has the ball, or when Draymond has it at the pinch post or at the free throw line. Like it's going to be that I'm right there with you. The reason I said those two teams is because like they look probably like the likeliest to make it through the play-in, and one's going to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. The other one might play you guys, might play us. Like that's the reward for a season worth of fighting, scratching, and clawing for the first two seeds, and you get to deal with a front court of like that like classic playoff front court of Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington and all those, and Kyrie Irving, who can beat you single-handedly in a game or two as well, or Steph and Jimmy and Draymond and those guys. Like I'm really hoping that one of those teams climbs out of the play-in altogether. Warriors have a pretty easy schedule for the rest of the way, so maybe they do that. All right, we'll do one more.
Okay.
Your Denver Nuggets.
Man, your audience already hates me, which, by the way, always my goal, Lakers fans. I tried to be your friend over here. But now I'm going to make my audience hate me. I came into the year this year and I said it was my first year in 10 years, my 10th year covering the Nuggets. I started Jokic's first season. This is my first year I've been lower on the Nuggets than the average, you know, whatever people say. And there's been some ups. I still think that there's a chance I'm wrong because I think Jokic is unbelievable. I mean, where I have him all time is going to be on the pushing, pushing the limits because I just think he's that incredible. But this team to me has some real questions that I'm worried won't get solved by the time the playoffs roll around, and they're just going to be vulnerable. Not necessarily more vulnerable than all the other teams in the West, but also not more dominant. So for me, I would probably go with a whoa. With the understanding that, hey, to me, this is like LeBron's 09 Cavs team or something where you're like, hey, they got LeBron and they can, when they're looking good, they can do some stuff. And you're like, yeah, but at some point, the thing they can't do is probably going to be forced upon them, and we'll see. But they're good. They have time. I'm optimistic that they can figure it out. A lot of this comes down to Jamal Murray, who's been really good lately. So maybe he keeps going in that direction and I'll buy into it more. But at the moment, I just am worried they're going to be a guy short.
I think all of what you said can still be true, but I still think Jokic is so bleeping good that it like just doesn't matter to a certain extent. Like they're the only team in the West that I would hope the Lakers are on the opposite side of the bracket from. You know, like Hope that some other team knocks them out because I would rather not face them. I'm not I'm not as concerned about the Oklahoma City Thunder as I probably should be given their statistical profile. But they're all like 6'5" and shorter. LeBron and Luka can pass the ball over
against
them.
wings. Their weakness is wings, and
Yeah.
you have the two best in the league. So it's like I understand. I think Oklahoma City probably should fear LA a little bit.
Yeah, and then like their offense just goes cold. We just saw it with them against Minnesota the other night, where they scored like 7 points from like the 5-minute mark of the fourth through all of overtime.
Yeah,
And Minnesota was able to win. Like that makes me a little nervous. Houston and Memphis, I think, are both
young.
like Houston is really young. Memphis,
Memphis is really young.
They're also young, but I just don't. I want to see what happens like after they make a choice between Bane and Morant. Like I want to see what that team looks like. But
they also play the most unique brand of basketball in the NBA, in my opinion. And I think that's part of why they have such a good regular season. I love Memphis, by the way. This is not a knock on them. I know everybody, it's like Sacramento, oh, they're a 2 seed. Nobody fears them. Sometimes that's just the case. They play such a unique brand that I think in the playoffs, when you game plan and play it game after game after game, it'll become easier to solve throughout the course of the series. Whereas in the regular season, you stop in Memphis for a night. Oh, they don't run pick and rolls? Like, well, okay, so what's our defensive scheme? Like, I just think they catch a lot of teams, not prepared for them in a way that won't come in the playoffs.
And then, from then on, like I would say, Denver is a team that I'm really nervous about. I think Golden State is like the next team that I'm actually most nervous to face just because Steph is such a boogeyman and the Lakers like don't have a guy to like you who could even like shadow him. That makes me really nervous.
You know what's under discussed, man? Steph was the guy in the Olympics. LeBron was amazing. KD had some big games, especially in the pool play. The semifinals and the finals were about Steph. And it's amazing to me that you had that team and Steph was the hero definitively in the 2 close games. It kind of reminds you of how freaking good that guy is when everyone else does their job.
Yeah, that documentary really hammered that point home. How like KD spent a lot of time talking. I don't think LeBron was very involved with the doc, so like he didn't talk a whole bunch, but Steph definitely spoke a lot. What's that?
I said that's why it was good.
You're probably not wrong. But like Steph did like talk a lot and it like there's that great scene of the Serbian team talking like, don't fucking leave Kevin Durant. There's our game plan. Yeah. Like don't leave him alone. But then like you have to, you wound up having to lose Steph. And if you lose him for like a millisecond, shot's up, shot's gone, plays over.
You know what's funny about that one though? That clip was so amazing, and there was a handful of them throughout. Where you just see teams yelling at each other and stuff, and I just loved it so much. And I thought it was an incredibly well-made documentary. But
it's one of my favorite docs maybe ever.
And you know why? Because it was only about one thing: competition.
Yeah.
It wasn't about anything else. It was like, these are teams that are trying to win, and here's how they go through it. And what was funny is the clip that went viral, the quote of it was something like, KD had Team Serbia twisted or something like that. He had them going crazy. I'm like, have you guys never played sports before? Is there a locker room in the world that in an elimination game is not yelling at each other in the that's called sports, you idiots. That's not like, oh, he had him in nuts. No, that was awesome. That wasn't point and laugh. That was awesome. That's what sports are about. And it's why we don't get that from most documentaries. Like this was clearly an outside group that made this, not like the same people that make everything. So it was just cool for me because that's what I loved about it was the coach coming in and saying, F me, I guess. Like I loved it. I thought it was like, that's raw and real.
That the Serbian coach was the hero of the doc, I thought.
He's so great.
Every single thing he said made me laugh uproariously. He's just like
Serbia is incredible. I mean, obviously, I've fallen in love with them. Went out there, made a documentary about their culture and history, through basketball. So, like, I'm extremely tied to it. He's a fascinating character. The thing I loved about it, because I do think that they're like Jokic is this way. Like, he's so serious. He works his butt off. He does all these things. The moment the game's over, he's the drunkest person in the world. Like, that's kind of the culture, right? Work hard, play hard. But what I love is the breakdown. what did they like? Everyone 3, 2, 1 together, whatever. Theirs was who's the best? Serbia. I love it.
After they just lost too.
Even after they lost, you're like, oh, yeah, you guys, we're still the best. I just loved it. I was like, that's so perfect. That's so perfect.
Like it was impossible. Like I was watching, it was like, who's the best? And I wanted to be like, the team that beat you. The guys that beat you.
No, they're like, F those guys. I just loved it. I thought that was so cool.
They got lucky. Adam, this has been an absolute blast, as it always is. Before we get you out of here, where do we find your work? What all should we be watching? I actually did watch your guys' breakdown after that game Saturday between the Lakers and Nuggets.
Very fair.
Watched you guys on DMDR. It was a great breakdown. I really enjoyed it.
Very fair, right? Very even-handed. This was, whatever. People don't want to watch our Nuggets show, but you can DMDR Nuggets. It's always fun. But Lakers fans just go in there to troll because they're very lonely. But I would say the All-NBA show with me and Tim Legler. That's the one if people are interested in. We went long on the Lakers today. Tim Legler had some really good stuff on it. Legs is a huge Luka fan, like a huge, I think it's his favorite player. He'll never say that, but he like really, really loves Luka's game. So we'll be talking about the Lakers a lot, I have a feeling.
Great.
We talked about him today and it was great.
Can't wait. I'm going to I haven't checked it out yet, but I will. All right. That is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. Until tomorrow when the Lakers played the Minnesota Timberwolves and Raj breaks down that game with me after live. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Adam Mattis. This has been the Lakers Lounge. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.